accidents are expensive. You know, sometimes I hear people say safety is expensive. Safety is not expensive. Accidents are expensive. If you are doing your job as a safety manager, then you are saving the company money. In this episode, I want to show you exactly what a typical back injury actually costs. It is really staggering when you take into account both the direct and the indirect costs associated with an accident. Let's jump in. All right, so let's talk about a back injury. Now, well, you know what? Before I do that, let me actually tell you about my OSHA audit course. If you go to my website, helpwithosha.com, I've got a course that explains exactly what you need to do to prepare your company for an unexpected OSHA audit. Oftentimes, managers have never been through an audit, and so they don't really know what they don't know. If this is you, this course is a perfect fit. In this course, I explain exactly what you need to do to prepare your company for an unexpected OSHA audit. We talk about what managers in production need to do. We talk about maintenance and how they can help. We talk about the gatekeeper, the person that actually meets you. And then we walk through the framework of an OSHA audit, so you know exactly what to expect should they ever knock on your door. It also includes how to respond to OSHA after you've had an audit. So if you're watching this and you've already had an audit, well, this will show you exactly what you need to do to prepare for the informal conference, to negotiate fines and citations, and to actually fix the problems that they found so you don't have them come back again. So check this out. Go to my website, helpwithosha.com, and you can download a free OSHA audit checklist, but you can also sign up and access the course today. It's well worth your time. It's a course that I wish existed when I went through my first OSHA audit. But now let's talk about how much a back injury costs. Let's talk about a typical back injury. Now I'm going to kind of paint the picture and explain what happened. And this was a back injury that I remember. It happened to a maintenance employee. The guy was in his 50s. He wasn't in the best physical shape, but he was a manly man. He was a tough guy. And so what happened was they needed to move a piece of equipment from one part of the shop up onto a conveyor. And instead of having somebody help him, he just reached down and grabbed it and manhandled it up, and he was seriously injured in the process. And he was basically incapacitated. He couldn't move. There was no physical damage. You couldn't see blood. You couldn't see what happened, but the guy's back was messed up. And he went to the doctor, and he went and had, and this was over the course of about 2.5 years, he ended up having 3 different back surgeries. Now, this was a serious back injury, and it cost the company tens and tens of thousands of dollars, ultimately over $100,000 by the time things were done. It was incredible how much this cost, and it was completely preventable. He should have never picked up that piece of equipment. Literally 2 days later, they installed a hoist over that area so that accident would never reoccur. But the damage was done, and his back to this day is still not right. And I really feel for the guy because he's living with pain every day because of an accident that happened on the job. So let me give you that's a serious back injury. You're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is just a typical back injury. So let me lay this out. The first cost that we think of is just normal medical expenses. And so let's just say normal medical expenses for a typical back injury, $10,000. You go to the doctor, you're given medicine, you're given treatment, you're given diagnosis, they take x-rays, and it costs a lot of money. So it costs $10,000. Okay? Now, that's direct cost. We know it costs $10,000. From there, we go to workers' comp, and the workers' comp is $15,000 and another $2,000 when they increase your premiums. So another 15 grand. Again, I'm paying for the medical bills, I'm paying the workers' comp insurance. This is all going into it. Now, here's the piece that sometimes gets forgotten. When that employee is hurt on the job keeps going, right? People are still working. People have to fill that role, and you don't have somebody that's trained or experienced to do it. And so you end up with lost productivity. And let's say you lose $5,000 that month because you don't have that experienced worker on the floor working. You've replaced them with somebody that's not quite as good. And when you do that, you also have to pay training and HR costs to retrain somebody to do that job. And let's say that's $3,000. Now, this is what we call indirect cost. So direct cost, we see it. It's like, boom, black and white. We're paying the doctor. We're paying workers' comp. We're going to physical therapy. It's an obvious expense. It's an obvious cost. But indirect cost, the loss in productivity, the cost to train somebody, that's kind of just, it's in the air, but we don't know exactly what it is. But when you actually quantify it, you're talking thousands of dollars of training, of people's time, of materials, and lost production time. Now, here's another indirect cost. Somebody gets hurt on the job, word gets out pretty quick, and you will have damage to your reputation as a company when somebody's injured on the job. And it's hard to see it, but it is real. And I'll tell you a little side story here, and this is a story that unfortunately repeats itself across the country every single week. There was a company in my hometown that somebody was killed on the job. It was a fatality. And this was before I even got involved with safety, but it was one of those things, small town, people heard about it. It was like, oh, wow, did you hear what happened? Yeah, I heard what happened. And news started to trickle out into what happened and the nature of the accident. Do you know about 18 months later, the company closed down? Nobody wanted to work there. Their reputation was killed. I'm sure that all the other costs helped contribute to the death of the company, but that fatality was terrible, and it caused an employee to be killed on the job, but it also caused everyone at that company to lose their jobs because their reputation was hurt so badly that people stopped doing business with them. Now, it doesn't always cause the company to close down, but it can, and it will definitely make your job harder hiring people. People don't want to go work for a company when it gets a bad reputation. I'll give you another example. I work in North Carolina, and there is a company where I've heard multiple people explain that they used to work there and they got out as quick as they could because it was unsafe and they'd seen some really nasty accidents. And that word spread throughout the industry to where now that company is paying way higher wages just to get people to come work for them because nobody wants to work there because it's an unsafe work environment. So that bad reputation can cost you in multiple ways. Now, let me get back here. Employee morale kind of goes across with reputation, but employees' morale drops because of the back injury by $2,000. That means you get more people that don't want to work, more people that don't want to work hard, more people that don't want to trust you or work with you. And I got another story that goes with this, and this is a true story. And again, it's one of those things that it sticks out in my brain. I was doing an accident investigation for a company that had an injury because the maintenance employee bypassed lockout tagout, smashed his hand beyond belief, and almost lost it, but smashed it beyond belief. And while he was doing that, he was training a new employee. A new employee was shadowing him while he was doing that and saw the accident. So this was a brand new employee out of community college, probably a 20, 21-year-old kid, watching this maintenance worker, saw his hand get crushed. How long do you think he stayed at the company after that? Yeah, not long. He was gone within a week. So Not only did you have a maintenance employee that smashed their hand beyond belief, you had employee morale tank, you had employees quit and leave because they didn't want to be associated with it, and then you got the training and the HR cost associated with that. So it really adds up quickly. Going back to my back injury example, the direct cost, if you're doing the numbers and adding this up, the direct cost is $27,000. And if you're not careful, that's the number people will see and they'll be like, well, that's how much the accident cost. It cost $27,000. But when you figure in the indirect cost is $14,000, which brings the average back injury $41,000. Now, is safety expensive? I would say accidents are way more expensive. And keep in mind, people often think of OSHA citations as the kind of the measuring stick for what's serious. OSHA citations are usually less than the cost of injuries. Now, they can be more, but most of the time, most companies around the country, when they have an accident, they're putting out big bucks. And they're putting out big bucks and they don't recoup it. It's just going away. Invest in quality safety training, invest in quality safety programs, make your company the best, safest company to work for. And I'm telling you, it will pay for itself. Safety pays. If you take care of your employees and you avoid accidents, not only are you going to prevent the medical costs, the direct, the indirect cost, but you're also going to avoid OSHA, because OSHA very seldom comes to a company that has a great accident rating, right? They're not going to waste their time. They're going to focus their energy on companies that have bad OSHA logs. They're going to focus their time on companies that have serious accidents. They're going to focus their time on employees that are complaining about these bad companies to work for. Number one reason for an OSHA audit, a disgruntled employee. If you don't have people getting hurt and your safety program is top notch, people aren't going to be complaining about it. They might complain about other things, but they're not going to be complaining about the safety program. So I would encourage you, take the time to look at your injury cost over the last year. And you don't got to get into the weeds and in the details, but please don't just look at the direct cost, consider the indirect cost also. And on that note, I'll let you guys get back to work. I will tell you, if you haven't already, check out my OSHA audit course. It's a great way to make sure that you've prepared your team for an unexpected OSHA audit. And until we meet again, do everything you can to keep the people you work with safe, because no one should get hurt at work.